Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining our masterclass. Our topic today is BPOs of today and tomorrow, the big challenges post-COVID. For those that don't know us, we are Broadvoice and GoContact. Broadvoice acquired GoContact in August of this past year, and we're in process of merging the companies together. We are a cloud communications service provider. We're headquartered in Los Angeles. We operate on 4 continents with offices in Los Angeles, in Portugal, and in Spain. We run our proprietary platform of our own technology that's operated in 6 data centers across those 4 continents, as well as in the cloud. But what we're probably best known for is our consultative approach to the services we offer. So we offer CCaaS services, including inbound and outbound voice, ticketing, email, omni-channel messaging, AI, as well as UC services, things like team collaboration, video collaboration, and SIP trunking. My name is George Mitopoulos, and I have the pleasure of leading our product teams as the Chief Product Officer for Broadvoice and GoContact. It is a absolute fun job working with a great group of people to really come up with ways that we can solve our customers' challenges in a very new and unique way and overcome some of those challenges and problems. It's very special for me because I got my start a little over 20 years ago as an agent in the contact center. So many of those challenges, from being a contact center agent to moving into a supervisor, manager, eventually a COO, running some large contact centers, I understand them firsthand, both from an operations perspective as well as an agent perspective, and how important it is. And it's really fun to be able to work with clients, solve those challenges and problems for them. With that, I would like to introduce to you Shonda Wink from CGI. She will tell you a little bit about herself, and she's going to go through some slides for a study that her team put together. Shonda?
Thank you, George. And I keep pointing out, I used to have dark hair not too long ago, so I'm a new blonde here. But anyways, my name is Shonda Wink. I'm Director of Business Development with CGI. In CGI, we are a global IT and business consulting services. We're working with our clients around areas of process improvement, digital transformation, data automation, those types of things. We have been in business for about 45 years. We have over 80,000 employees now. It says 78 here, but we just had an acquisition. We have 400 offices in 40 countries. And I just want to give you 2 quick examples of how CGI is partnering with our clients. We have a banking software. We have processed over $12 trillion worth of transactions through our software. We also have a healthcare insurance company where we were able to help them through our software detect $100 million of unsubstantiated and fraudulent claims in 2021. So just 2 quick examples of how we're working with our clients. So CGI was commissioned by Broadvoice to do a global study of BPO and contact centers. As what we think is the only study of its kind. It's a very in-depth study. I'm just going to talk about a few things here for the study today, go over a couple key highlights, but we are going to provide you with access to the complete study at the end of the survey. So we are going to ask you to participate in this survey today. So if everybody can take out their phone for me, we're going to have some interactive questions through our survey. Just going to ask some of the questions that we asked to our survey responders to see, your feedback if it aligns with the survey. We want to give you an idea of who responded to our survey. Like I said, we did a global survey. We were able to reach, you can see here on the left-hand side of the screen, we had respondents from anywhere from a small to medium-sized organization up to a global BPO and contact center. But what we were really excited about is the highest percentage of title that responded to our survey was the C-level. And we felt the C-level would have maybe the most holistic view into the organization to really give us accurate feedback on all of the questions that we asked around the different parts of the business. So for our survey responders, we wanted to know what kind of services are you offering. So you can see here that customer care, sales, and back office were the top 3. But then we also wanted to ask, how are you communicating with your customers? What channels are you offering? So I think it's really interesting here. Voice is number 1, but barely, right? So we have email, web, and tickets closely behind that. And I didn't share this in my introduction, but I started in a contact center about 25 years ago as an agent. 25 years ago, we would have never thought of another way to interact with our customers. Only, phone would have been the only option. So if we did this study next year or the year after that, would voice no longer be number one? Because if it loses its place as number one, it's going to continue to work its way down. We asked about the pandemic 2 years ago, and this time frame here is when we were all trying to figure out what life was going to look like when we shut down. So schools were shutting down, daycare, people were being sent home. How are we as how are organizations really kind of working through that? I remember when we thought it was going to last 2 weeks. I don't know if anybody else remembers that. It's 2 years later, right? So we all have a story about the pandemic. But here it comes to our first survey questions. We're going to ask you to participate. So what were the main challenges that you faced to deliver services during the pandemic? So we'll give everyone a minute here. The survey will kind of calculate and tabulate in live here. Okay, so it looks like right now we have the capacity to face increased traffic demand. From your perspective, from our crowd here perspective, that was the main challenge that you saw through the pandemic here. But if we look at what our survey of the responders are, that answer is definitely up there. But the technology to switch to remote support. Contact centers, BPOs, were not traditionally remote organizations. So in that time frame from 2 years ago, what was the challenge? It was the technology to switch to remote. Because we all know that our industry is growing and changing. And so that's what, the new expectation is, have a remote capability. So another question here about keeping your team motivated during the pandemic. So once everyone's at home, how are you keeping your team engaged? How are you keeping them feeling valued? How are you keeping them focused on doing their job as you have increased call volume, right? We'll give everyone a minute here to participate in this question. Okay, so maintaining teamwork and team spirit as our leader. We also have maintain culture and brand awareness. That's important, right? You work hard as an organization to define what your culture is, to implement that. And when everybody's no longer where you can't see them, how is that important? How are you keeping that important to them? Your answers and your responses were very much in line with our survey responses. Maintaining a teamwork and team spirit. So once we asked them to define what their problem was, we wanted to ask them, how did you pivot? How were you creative in really kind of engaging your agents and figuring out what the new normal is, if there is a new normal? So we can see here in the center, we can all identify with these issues, but I want to point out a couple here that really speak to me. And if we look in the top right corner here, treats delivered to home. And I keep using this as an example, but I think it's really profound. My friend Josie is a manager in a contact center, has about 25 agents. And she really, from the very beginning, just started writing thank you notes. Thank you for logging in on time. Thank you for adhering to your schedule. Thank you for providing excellent customer service on those calls that I've observed. And she really got a lot of awesome feedback from her agents, how they appreciated just a small gift and a handwritten thank you note. And if we look in the opposite corner here, more training. If you think about it, your agents are no longer able to ask a peer face-to-face or go to your desk or things like this. How are you equipping your agents to really be more self-sufficient as they serve your customers? And team building activities, right? What does that look like when you do that remote? Who here did a virtual happy hour with friends right? So we had to stay connected. So those are areas that people were getting creative to really kind of keep their team engaged. So as we wrap up our section here on the pandemic, I'm going to talk about the hybrid delivery model in the top right-hand corner. As people are talking about going back into the office, what does that look like? Are you allowing maybe some agents to continue to stay at home? Are you offering a hybrid model? What does that look like? Because I think we're all still trying to figure that out. And if we look in the opposite corner here, remote work best practices. What were your best practices that you developed to maintain the integrity of your organization and security as everyone became remote? So we asked during the survey, what were your top concerns around 3 specific areas: business, technology, and people. For the business, call volume increased, right? So how are you meeting the demands of your growing business? Technology, if we look at cybersecurity, we're all talking about it, right? Because we need to be talking about it. So how are you addressing the concerns of your organization to keep it safe? And if we look at people, we know that there's some challenges around having the talent pool, the number of people that you need to hire. So in that, I would say, how are you recruiting and retaining your existing talent base? So if we move on to technology, I recognize there's a lot on this screen. There's a lot of information, but that's how we do business these days. It used to be, if we kind of go back and compare this to a couple slides ago, outbound and inbound dialer is number one, but barely. So we have right behind that our email and ticketing. I'd say the same thing. If we did this survey next year or the year after, what does that look like? Is voice now number one? As younger people enter into the consumer world, they can't think of picking up the phone and talking to someone. I have a 23 and a 24-year-old. They are not calling someone. They're going to do a chat. They're just not going to do it. So we understand that this is always going to change here. Again, in this survey, is we wanted to talk about what were the challenges that you faced. And if we look at a rating 7 being most important, 1 being least important, the most important here is the demands for flexibility and agility. How is your technology partner working with you? Are they flexible enough to meet what your changing needs are? And then also, what's stopping you from growing your business? And really, the number one is difficulties to enter the market. So my question for that is, how is your technology partner helping you meet those needs and solve those problems that you can really enter into the new marketplace? So our next survey question is predictions for the largest technology investment over the next 12 months. Where do you see yourself going? Where do you see yourself, heading here in the next 12 months? I'll give everyone a minute to respond to that question. So it looks like in all of our sessions today, advanced analytics, dashboards, and real-time solutions has been number one in almost all of the classes that we've had here today. So really, how are you keeping an eye on your business in real time? A little bit different here from our survey responders is RPA is the largest technology investment that they plan to make in the next 12 months. And it really comes down to how are you automating some of those common tasks, common calls that your agents are doing, and really implementing that artificial intelligence to automate those tasks. I think we can all agree during the last 2 years, relationships really, it's kind of where the rubber meets the road, right? So is your technology partner, how are they serving you? How are they meeting your needs and meeting your expectations? So we wanted to ask, what would cause you to change your technology provider? It's kind of interesting here, the speed to implement solutions. I think all roads keep coming back to that 2 years ago when we were trying to all make those changes in a really rapid and flexible and quick manner here. What's our last survey question? What do you value most in a technology partner? We'll give everyone a minute to answer that. We had the same response in one of our earlier classes for customer support and consultancy. How is that relationship? Are they providing you with guidance as you try to grow your business? So from our survey, the top response was know-how. And it's really simple and it's straightforward. Do they know how to help you? Do they know how to help you solve your problems? Are they equipped to really help you? So trends and conclusions. I just want to point out a couple of things on this. As we talk about digital transformation, right? It's almost a buzzword now and people maybe don't always know what it means, but how are you aligning your IT and your business needs? Really, how are you working together? I think any of us that's been in technology for a long time, it used to be a little bit separate, but now how are you joining together to meet the organizational goals? How are you helping it to grow your business and differentiate yourself in the market? And again, we have security. We're all talking about it. We need to be talking about it. Everybody's got a lot of data, but what are you doing with that data? Are you able to use that data to sort it in a manner that helps you and provides you with the results that you're looking for? So my last slide here, I think it's really interesting if we look at the top point here for the human-centric approach. How are we working to really approach our agents from a human-centric approach? Not so much just their numbers, but really from the holistic view. And just a couple things here. We all know these, right? KPIs and SLAs. How are we meeting those? How are we doing some smart tasks around that to improve those numbers? So that is all that I have for you today. I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to George.
Thank you, Shonda. Appreciate all of that great information. It is hard to believe that it's been 2 years now, just right about this same time, that we were all scrambling to go remote and start this. And I think everyone did think it was 2 weeks. I was right there with you with the virtual happy hours up until the part with friends. I missed that part. I was just doing by myself, so I didn't think that was a requirement, but I will incorporate that in the future. So how is Broadvoice and our Go Contact platform helping solve the challenges that Shonda mentioned in the study? I'm just going to take a couple of minutes at a very high level, going to highlight a few of those. The first is the move to cloud. And hopefully all of you have started to make this transition. It is super important. As you know from 2 years ago, there was this mad rush to say, how are we going to get all of these agents from working in a call center, working in that environment to be able to work from home? And cloud in that's important. And although we've been successful in that as an overall globe, remote work is still difficult, and hybrid work may be even more difficult. So cloud is a big part of that, making sure that as you onboard or offboard or change agents, those kind of things, that you can manage them properly. And Broadvoice Go Contact has been able to make our cloud platform secure for you and cost effective to make that work for you. In the study, voice is still the number one, inbound, outbound voice. But you see email and ticketing being that close second. And we see that same thing within our own customers that take advantage of our very strong email ticketing CRM platform, including scripting platform that's embedded within the application. That then extends into full omni-channel. So you're thinking social, including messaging, WhatsApp, Facebook. And there's certain markets that is absolutely critical in. For example, Latin America, I think, have started to overtake the voice side with the demand for those services. So definitely that's important to have within the platform. APIs and integrations. We talk a lot about flexibility, and this is important to be able to have a provider that can work within your workflows, integrate with your platform, and do things like, we've got a very strong BI and analytics tool that supervisors can use directly from the GUI interface, but we have a lot of our customers, especially our BPOs, that'll say, we want to take that data and move it into our own BI tool, marry that with data from across the rest of the organization, and be able to make those decisions. And that's something that we pride ourselves in being able to do. But perhaps a couple of the most important things. One, you hear us talk a lot about empowering operations, and that really ties back to self-service. And although IT is important, and we love our IT managers, we love our IT, our friends in IT, we really think it's important that your call center supervisor, your call center manager, your operations teams, your CX teams can fully take control and manage and adjust their platform on the fly. They don't have to submit a ticket and wait for IT. They have the capability of doing that themselves. And that helps with keeping SLAs in line. That helps with, if you got to change things from a script on the fly, that you have the capability of doing that. And then finally, a couple of things. One that we really, really like to focus on is our flexibility. And that's not only from a technology perspective, where we try to work with our clients to say, hey, how can we bend our solution to work best with you, work best with your company's campaigns, your workflows. But that's also from a people perspective. And I had the opportunity to sit down last night with one of our customers, and one of the first things that I heard from him was how impressed he was with how much we listened and tried to act on that, on the feedback that was provided. And that's really important to me, that our teams are listening, and that finally we're acting in a very consultative manner, because technology is technology, and technology is going to continue to grow. But you want to make sure that you have a provider that you're working with that understands your business and is not just there to provide the technology, but helps grow with you and helps show you, hey, here's how you can optimize the solutions that you have, and really sits down and listens to you. That's important for me, as I mentioned, coming out of the contact center space as an agent. Our CTO of the organization started his background as an operator of a BPO, so he really gets that. And when we look to hire, oftentimes we'll hire directly from folks that worked at contact centers, so that they really understand the challenges, not only from a technology perspective, but from a day-to-day perspective that our customers have. And with that, I will leave you with a couple of things. First, we've got a full access to the case study. There's a QR code that will send you to a place where you can download the full study. I think it's well over 100 pages of very good detail, so I'd encourage you to take a look. We're also happy to do some demos or continue the conversation there. Thank you again for joining us today. I really appreciate it, and enjoy the rest of the show.